Between 2015 and 2022, the commercial real estate industry sold passive investors on a guaranteed formula for printing money. It was called the value-add multifamily strategy. See, the playbook was incredibly simple, and it was entirely fueled by zero interest rate policy. See, a syndicator would find a Class B or Class C apartment complex built in the 70s or 80s. They would purchase the asset using a short-term floating bridge debt at an absurdly low 3 or 4% interest rate. They would allocate $10,000 to $15,000 per unit for purely cosmetic renovations. The formula was copy and paste across the Sunbelt and the Mid-Atlantic. Slap down luxury vinyl plank flooring, paint the original cabinets gray, install quartz countertops, and put stainless steel appliances in the kitchen. Once the unit looked good enough for a marketing brochure, they would push the rent by $200 to $300 a month. This artificially inflated the net operating income on paper, allowing them to sell the building 3 years later for a massive leverage profit. In 2026, that exact business model is mathematically dead. It is actively bankrupting operators across the United States. See, the market has fundamentally fractured. The operators who bought into the value-add fantasy are currently facing historic wave of foreclosures, massive capital calls, and total equity wipeouts for the limited partners. As a commercial real estate broker, I audit the financial wreckage of these deals every single week. I look at the raw T12s, the rent rolls, the debt covenants, and the deferred maintenance logs. See, today we're going to strip away the syndicator marketing fluff and look at the uncompromising brutal mathematics of why flipping apartments is no longer a viable business plan. I'm going to show you exactly how the structural CapEx inflation is destroying renovation budgets before they even start. I will break down how brand new luxury buildings are weaponizing free rent to suffocate Class B operators, and I will expose the mechanics of how the collapse of bridge debt is wiping out retail investors. Most importantly, I will show you how disciplined capital is stepping into this exact distress to acquire fundamentally strong assets for pennies on the dollar. So let's break down the math. So the first fatal flaw of the value-add lie is the difference between a cosmetic upgrade and a structural reality. See, real estate is a physical asset, and structural assets degrade. During the boom, operators deliberately ignore structural maintenance. See, replacing a roof or digging up a sewer line does not allow you to increase the rent, so they budgeted strictly for kitchens and bathrooms. And in 2026, that deferred maintenance is coming due, and the inflation of commercial hard costs has permanently altered the math. According to the Mortenson and Turner construction cost indices, cumulative hard cost inflation has surged between 30 and 40% since 2020. See, routine repair and maintenance costs have climbed nearly 28%. So let's isolate 3 specific structural time bombs that are destroying CapEx budgets today. First, commercial flat roofs. See, in 2021, an operator could budget around $6 to $8 per square foot for a basic TPO roof overlay. Today, strict building codes and saturated insulation mean you rarely get away with an overlay. You're looking at $10 to $12 or more per square foot for full tear-off, disposal, and replacement. And if you own a 25,000 square foot building, your replacement reserve just jumped to $150,000 to over $250,000. See, that instantly vaporizes the capital you plan to spend on upgrading the interiors. Second, the HVAC systems. See, this is the biggest hidden liability in multifamily real estate right now. See, the EPA's AIM Act mandated the phase out of the old R410A refrigerants. See, the industry was forced to transition to the new A2L refrigerant by 2026. Because the A2L is classified as mildly flammable, international mechanics codes change. You cannot simply drop a new A2L condenser into an old 1980s building. See, the code often requires you to break open the walls, install fire-rated ventilated shaft enclosures for the piping. And the base equipment costs jump from 15 to 25%, and the structural shaft upgrades get another $2,000 to $2,500 per square foot. So you're now spending up to $10,000 just to replace a single air conditioning unit. If your renovation budget is $12,000 a door, a single broken HVAC unit means you are putting original 1980s appliances back into the kitchen. Third, cast iron plumbing in older Class C properties. See, when these pipes inevitably fail from channeling or hydrogen sulfide corrosion, replacing them in a mid-rise building costs roughly $3,400 to $4,200 per unit just for the plumber's invoice. See, that doesn't include displacing the tenant, paying for their hotel, tearing out the drywall, or hiring specialized crews to remediate asbestos found in older buildings. Let me tell you exactly how this plays out in the real world. You see, I was touring a deal recently in an 80s vintage asset. The operator pitched it as a turnkey value add, which is a massive buzzword that everyone loves right now. See, on paper, it looked great. They had new painted exteriors, painted interiors, new luxury vinyl plank flooring, quartz countertops, and brand new cabinets. It was a classic cosmetic facelift. But when you look deeper and actually pull out the camera to scope the plumbing lines, you find the real issue. See, the original 1980s cast iron waste lines were completely corroded and collapsing. Water was pooling under the units. Then you look at the flat roofs. The water isn't going anywhere. It was just sitting there, saturating the insulation and causing membrane failures. That operator probably spent $10,000 to $15,000 per unit making the interiors look like a modern apartment, but they completely ignored the underlying underlying structural plumbing and roofing systems. See, ripping out those brand new floors to redo the plumbing creates over $1 million of unbudgeted structural CapEx bills. That is how you easily wipe out any return of any investment. Here's the unforgiving reality of operations. See, a tenant would not pay you a single dollar of premium rent because the roof doesn't leak or the toilet flushes. Those are baseline expectations. The massive capital expenditure strictly protects the asset. It does absolutely nothing to grow your net operating income. And you cannot rely on your insurance carrier to save you. To maintain profitability, commercial insurance carriers aggressively shifted the risk back on the balance sheets of property owners. Historically, a water damage claim carried a $5,000 to $10,000 deductible. Today, carriers are forcing $25,000 to even $50,000 deductibles on older Class B or C assets. See, a blown pipe isn't an insurance claim anymore. It is a direct catastrophic hit to your operating cash flow. If you somehow survive the structural CapEx, the value-add model requires you to aggressively raise rents to generate a return. And in 2026, that mathematically is impossible. The industry is currently digesting the largest apartment construction pipeline seen in 40 years. By the middle of 2026, there's roughly 1.3 million units still in the lease-up for construction phase, heavily concentrated in the Sun Belt and the Mountain West. And because developers are desperate to lease up these brand new luxury Class A buildings and satisfy their lenders, they abandon asking rents and weaponize free rent. Let's look at the institutional data. In the second quarter of 2026, the national average concession discount hit 11.1%. That equals nearly 6 weeks of free rent on a 12-month lease. In heavily oversaturated markets like Austin, Texas, an astonishing 37% of stabilized units are offering average discounts of 15.6%, nearly 2 full months of free rent. You have to understand the math of net effective rent, because this is what kills the value-add pro forma. See, let's say a brand new Class A luxury unit is asking rent of $2,100 and your renovated 20-year Class B unit has an asking rent of $1,750. See, on paper, you have a 20% price advantage. But when that Class A developer gives away 2 months of free rent to steal market share, the renter is only paying for 10 months. That drops the Class A net effective income down to exactly $1,750. The price gap completely evaporates. If a renter can live in a brand new, state-of-the-art luxury facility for the exact same effective monthly cost as your 1980s renovated unit, they will choose the brand new building every time. This is called the filtering effect. See, middle income renters filter up to better products, leaving vacancies at the bottom, and this creates a daily dynamic of your rent roll. When I'm reviewing a rent roll, I am looking for the squeeze. I'm looking for when the property drops its tenant profile quality because it can no longer compete with new supply. And to clarify this, you have to look at the new lease tradeouts versus the renewal tradeouts. A renewal is simply the rent increase signed by the current tenant because they don't want to deal with the cost of moving. A new lease tradeout is the actual rent change when an old tenant leaves and a brand new tenant moves in. And when you look at the value add pro forma, operators will often boost to 5% renewal growth across the board. But if you look at the real data, the new lease tradeouts are completely flat or even negative. Because what this actually means is artificial retention. See, the high renewal rates aren't a sign of strength, they're reflecting existing tenants who simply cannot afford the upfront cash required to move elsewhere. Meanwhile, the broader market is rejecting your product because your inability to attract fresh demand. See, if an operator cannot push rents on a blank slate when the new tenant walks through the door today, any pro forma predicting a $200 organic rent premium after a building is built on incredibly flawed assumptions. And when those artificial renewals eventually expire, those tenants will leave and you're left holding an empty building that nobody wants. So you don't get a premium for new floors, you just get an empty, unleasable unit. You just spent your CapEx budget fixing broken pipes instead of upgrading kitchens. You can't raise rents because Class A developers are giving away 2 months free. Your net operating income is completely stagnant. And now, your 3-year bridge loan expires. During the zero interest era, operators underwrote these deals assuming interest rates will remain suppressed forever and that cap rates will stay at the 3 to 4% range. Today, the cost of that exact bridge debt has doubled. Worse, cap rates for B and C class value add assets have aggressively expanded from 6% to 8%. So let's apply this to a real market. If you bought a Class C asset in Richmond in 2021 for $22.2 million at a 4.5 cap rate, and you magically managed to grow the NOI by $1.2 million, the cap rate expansion to 6.5% means that building you now own is only worth $18.4 million. See, your property is underwater. You cannot secure permanent agency debt because you do not meet the strict 1.25% debt coverage ratio. The property simply doesn't generate enough cash to pay the mortgage. This isn't a theoretical risk, it's a systemic bloodbath. The multifamily CMBS delinquency rate violently surged to 7.23% by June 2026. 65% of those newly delinquent balances are strictly matured balloon loans that operators cannot refinance. So look at what happens to retail investors when this debt wall hits. Look at Applesway Investment Group. They acquired over 3,200 units in the 70s and 80s workforce housing in Texas using massive bridge loans. When their interest rates spiked from 3.4% to 8%, the structural decay of their properties overwhelmed their cash flow. The portfolio collapsed. The lender foreclosed, and the original limited partners, the doctors, the lawyers, and retail investors who funded the equity were wiped out to zero. The reported losses, $294 million. Or look at GVA Real Estate Group, facing defaults on hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. They were forced to take on a rescue capital from private equity firms like S2 Capital. S2 injected $60 million in preferred equity to restructure their debt and took total operational control. If you are a passive investor, you must understand the brutal mechanics of preferred equity. It sits senior to common equity in the capital stack. It demands high double-digit returns, often 12 or 15%. If the property doesn't generate enough cash to pay that 15% return, the interest rate accrues and compounds. So when the syndicator brings in preferred equity to save a property from the bank, the retail investors are mathematically vaporized within 18 months. And structural collapses don't just happen to Class B or C workforce housing. See, sometimes they happen with major institutional projects when the debt structures fail. See, a prime example is a deal we saw collapse in real time right here in Richmond, the Model Tobacco building. This was a historic adaptive reuse development converting an Art Deco tobacco complex into over 200 luxury lofts. It was backed by over $59 million in total capital, combining private debt, equity, and historic tax credits. So even though it was a high-profile physical asset, the deal was crippled by severe management issues, cost overruns, and debt service distress. The developer ultimately defaulted on a $30.7 million construction loan held by Virginia Housing. The property went into foreclosure, and on the courthouse steps, not a single buyer stepped in to bid above the debt balance. Virginia Housing took the entire 15-acre asset back via $30.7 million credit bid. The lesson here? Private equity was wiped out completely. So whether it's an unrenovated 1970s asset or a grand historic mill conversion, a great physical asset cannot overcome a flawed debt structure and mismanaged capital expenditures. When the capital stack breaks, the basis resets to zero for equity holders every single time. When you're looking at mid-market institutional acquisitions today, due diligence requires looking way beyond the basic marketing materials. If you're deploying capital, you need rigorous technical checklists. Number 1, plumbing infrastructure. The marketing pro forma might say standard costs require $2,500 per unit. The actual audit, you demand a camera line inspection for cast iron degradation, bellies, and sub-slab failures. You do not close without seeing the inside of those pipes. Number 2, roofing. The marketing package says the roof was replaced within the last 10 years. The actual audit, you conduct a thermal infrared sweep. You run a moisture retention analysis under the membrane and core sampling to identify structural deck risk. And number 3, organic rent growth. The marketing package projects 4.5% market growth. The actual audit, you isolate new lease effective rents, net all concessions versus renewal spreads. If the new lease tradeouts are flat or negative, their entire organic rent premium is a lie. Number 4, replacement reserves. So the OM projects a standard $250 per unit per year reserve allocation. The actual audit, you require deferred CapEx true up based on the remaining useful life of the major mechanical systems. If the HVAC units are aging out or obsolete, the R410A refrigerant, you can force the seller to absorb that multi-million-dollar liability at the closing table. We are now in the market governed strictly by operational reality. Right now in the Mid-Atlantic, we are going through a massive, significant valuation and basis reset. See, navigating this environment requires looking beyond the surface level pro formas to evaluate true mechanical, structural, and debt level risks. So how does sophisticated capital actually make money in 2026? You execute the zero growth stress test. You completely abandon the value add fantasy. You do not underwrite a real deal assuming you can push rents by $300 to bail out your acquisition price. You underwrite the asset strictly on the net effect the rent is collecting today. And you stop fighting the institutions. You wait for the capitulation. And right now the most compelling acquisitions are not listed on LootNet. They're coming directly from the distress created by this debt wall. In fundamentally strong, diverse economies like Richmond and the Hampton Roads, Virginia, tenant demand remains incredibly resilient. Richmond Class B vacancy is sitting at a highly stabilized 7.5%, and Class C is tight at 8.7%. Now, the underlying economic engine, driven by state government, logistics, and defense, is rock solid. See, the properties aren't failing. The capital structures are failing. Well-capitalized buyers are stepping in right now to acquire these fundamentally sound Class B and Class C assets at steep discounts. So we are seeing deals clear at 20 to 30% below their peak 2022 pricing and significantly below physical replacement costs. So how do you buy in this investment? It is looking at every part of the deal. How do you get into the deal? The financing. How you review it. How you operate it. How you manage it. How you eventually exit or refinance. You have to look at all the points, not just the acquisition. To execute this strategy, you must have an absolute capital discipline. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have drastically tightened their property condition assessments, PCAs, standards under the new ASTM E2018-2024 guidelines. They will force you to escrow massive replacement reserves, a minimum of $200 to $300 per unit annually, just to secure the debt. If the HVAC or roof is near the end of its life, the lender will force you to fund that replacement up front. So you need a broker and advisory partner who understands the raw mathematics of the capital stack, who knows how to scope a cast iron pipe, and who audits a rent roll for true effective yield. If you were a syndicator, family office, or high net worth investor holding dry powder, and you want to acquire distressed assets below replacement cost in Mid-Atlantic, let's connect. See, my contact information is in the description below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more uncompromising commercial grade market analysis, and drop a comment below. Are you currently trapped in the value-add syndication, or are you waiting to deploy capital at the bottom of this debt wall? Let's talk about it. I'll see you next video.